After theorizing how fighting the bosses from Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door and Paper Mario 64 would go, it's a given that in a future video, we'd be theorizing how fighting the Paper Mario 64 bosses in TTYD would go. And with all the extra tools that both Mario and his partners have at their disposal, it's safe to say that fighting 64 bosses in TTYD would be much easier. After all, this is a game where you have action commands at the very beginning, and an extra defensive action in Super Guards, which when used together would actually make it possible to defeat Bowser before the prologue starts. Because his max HP is only 10, and when he makes himself invincible, he only gains 1 point of defense. However, beating Bowser in the prologue crashes the game. That's just how sore a loser Bowser is. So for this video to actually exist, we'll have to let him win, but in return, I'll be demanding a favor from him later on. For now, however, these are my ground rules. Bosses will act as close to normal as possible. If a boss is guaranteed to do something, whether because they take enough damage, or it's a specific turn order, the boss in question will do it. Otherwise, if it's up to luck, I'll assume the worst case scenario. Mario and his party will be assumed to have equipment that matches where the boss is fought. So for example, when you get the super boost in Chapter 2, you'll have those boosts when you fight Tut and Koopa. Whether a boss attack can attack Mario or his partner will be judged on a case-by-case basis. This is because in Paper Mario 64, attacks that bosses have will always target Mario unless specified to attack his partner as well. Also, depending on the attack, we'll also attribute the property of piercing defense, since there are attacks that pierce defense in TTYD, but 64 never had that property. So for this, we're gonna have to use some logic. This is to say that the bosses of Paper Mario 64 will act as normal, but will operate according to TTYD's battle engine. With this all finally said, let's get on with the video. As you're likely already aware, Junior Troopa is a recurring character we're always battling in this game. Expect me not to talk about him too much. Anyways, after crushing the prologue, which is very easy to cruise through thanks to having action commands already, we scale Hooktail Castle, but instead of actually finding a dragon, we find Bowser. Now it is true we have less partners, but in TTYD, you already have the means to rank your partners up because there are 3 Shine Sprites available already in Chapter 1. So either Goombella or Koops can be ranked up right now. However, for this fight, you really don't need either. TTYD is the game that introduces partner positioning, and your most recent partner, Koops, has a point of defense. If you position him in front, the fake Bowser cannot hurt him, because his one and only attack has only 1 attack power and it doesn't pierce defense. So the fake Bowser can't even really hurt you. Even if Koops didn't have his point of defense, you have the option to end your turn by defending as opposed to being able to do nothing. Safe to say, you're well overprepared. And this isn't even getting into the fact that you have an audience and Sweet Treat to heal yourself if need be. Once the fake Bowser is defeated and you fight the Koopa Bros themselves, you're still left with a boss that can only target the front, and does less damage than Hooktail is able to. Sure, you don't have any of the Koopa Bros' weaknesses, whether it's electricity or explosions, but that's fine. One good hammer swing, and then any attack from your partner will knock them all down on their backs. You can then just Power Shell a couple of times, maybe with the help of Sweet Treat and Multi-Bounce, and you win. Since each Koopa Bro has only 5 HP max, the Diamond Star is now yours. Having survived Chapter 1 and heading to Chapter 2, there are no bosses you're forced to fight before Tut and Koopa. At least unless you count Junior Troopa, who you'd be fighting as soon as you left Hooktail Castle. He would be more challenging just because he can choose to attack either Mario or his partner at will, and without Bombette, you lack a good burst option to use your FP on. Or at least, you would, unless you opted to rank up Goombella before fighting the Koopa Bros. Then she can make pretty quick work of him, since Junior Troopa has only 1 point of defense, and Goombella has 2 attack at super rank. So even this fight is still fairly trivial. And once you actually do start Chapter 2, you are guaranteed to get the Super Boots in the Great Tree, which not only power up Mario's jumping skill, but it also gives him the spin jump as an attack. And since Tut and Koopa has no defense, because keep in mind, he was not designed around having access to the Super Boots yet, Mario's jumping skills will knock him out very quickly. You also have Earth Tremor by now, which completely shuts down Tut and Koopa's gimmick with his chomp. As unlike Quake Hammer, which at best is a 2-hit KO unless you charge it first, Earth Tremor will not only one-shot the chomp, it can get as much as a bonus 6 damage on Tut and Koopa as well. So there's honestly very little to actually talk about here. We can say that its shell throw would be able to hit either Mario or his partner, but that's pretty meaningless in the grand scheme of things. And because partners have their own HP stat in TTYD, not being able to guard the magic spell sees them take only 2 damage, and that's really it. So the threat of your partner not guarding is significantly lower. There's just no real danger to Tut and Koopa, it's pathetic. And that sees Mario gain his Emerald Star. I guess it's only fair we talk about Buzzer as well. The funny thing is, she actually has more HP with 40 max, but because Mario can have his equipment upgraded before you fight her, that HP doesn't tend to last very long. Between Mario and either Goombella or Flurry, you're doing 8 damage per turn, and Buzzer can't really do much to stop that. Actually 10 damage per turn if you have Jumpman equipped. She has an attack you can't guard at all, yes, but it does only 3 damage at worst, and partners actually have HP to keep fighting despite getting hurt. I will say that Buzzer would be a rare example of a boss that could target either Mario or his partner with any attacks that she has, but they're not threatening. And heck, some of the attacks that she has, like her Sky Drop, in my understanding, would not affect partners like Vivian or Flurry at all because they are already airborne. Maybe her feathers could pierce? I don't really know. It feels like I'm grasping at straws because there's just not much to talk about with this boss. In fact, that's just how a lot of bosses later in this video would go. Understand, you're given access to Mega Rush P before you even get to Chapter 1's first boss. And after that first boss, you're also given access to Mega Rush for Mario. And following Chapter 2 being completed is where you have access to Power Rush. And unlike in 64, both of these badges can work alongside each other. One does not cancel the other out. So most bosses would really just boil down to having something like, say, Koops using Shell Shield, point swapping Mario to get him into peril, and then just bludgeoning the boss with your jump skill, whether that involves Spin Jump or Power Bounce. So as this video proceeds, we may talk less about general strategies you could use to win against the bosses, and instead just talk about what the boss attack properties would actually be. Chapter 3 has a fair few fights you're forced to do, since after all, it is the Glitz Pit. And I'm just imagining the crowd's reaction to seeing a literal baby come up in place of Bowser to fight Mario after the Magic Koopa Masters are defeated. It's a very good thing you can just run away from battles and not have to actually fight a literal child in front of a crowd, even if it is in self-defense. Anyhow, it's in Chapter 3 you get your hammer ranked up, and you also have access to Yoshi as a new partner. And while it is true that you don't have Bo to protect you from charge attacks, or Vivian until after Chapter 3 is completed, that doesn't necessarily mean you're forced to take the full damage from Hubba Blubba's heart anyway whenever he does use a charge move against you. Remember, you still have Koops with Shell Shield, so it's still entirely possible to avoid that attack entirely if you want. Though because you have 2 different targets, I think it'd be fair to say then that Hubba Blubba's heart can target either Mario or his partner with its charge attack. Meanwhile, the heart's tackle can only target the front. Otherwise, Hubba Blubba's heart's AI is extremely simple. Turns 1 and 2 are always spent charging up and then attacking. He'll do the same for turns 3 and 4 before tackling on turn 5, and then it loops back to what he did on turn 3, aka charging his attack for the next turn. It's actually possible to use this boss's AI against him, mainly because of how shrinking works in TTYD as opposed to 64. You see, if a target is shrunk in Paper Mario 64, their attack power is cut in half, while in TTYD, the target's attack power is reduced by 2. Now yes, overall this is a nerf, but for the purposes of this fight, it would give Mario the perfect opportunity to reach peril immediately and take advantage of the Mega Rush badges available to him. You can have Yoshi spend his first turn using Mini Egg to shrink Hubba Blubba's heart, which is extremely likely to actually happen. I mean, there's a 1 in 1,000 chance that the heart isn't shrunk, and then you Spin Jump as the heart prepares to charge. And yes, you can't guarantee the heart attacks Mario, as the heart can attack either Mario or his partner as per our rules. But TTYD also has an item called the Point Swap, which swaps the target's HP with your current FP. And with Mini Egg and Spin Jump costing 5 FP total, which would be our max FP right now, you would have 0 FP left, and that 0 FP would become your partner's HP, effectively knocking them out and making Mario the only real target. From there, all Mario would have to do is guard a 10 damage charge attack to take 9 damage total, and using the partner's HP as FP is able to power bounce and knock the heart out immediately. Even if you didn't want to power bounce, you'll do just fine by using your spin jump. And it's only 45 HP of damage you have to do to get the heart to run away. You don't have to eliminate the full 50 HP that the heart has. And regarding the then no longer invincible Tubba Blubba, well, one swing of your hammer will finish him off then. And I think it's starting to now seep in just how much more powerful Mario is in TTYD as opposed to 64. Chapter 4 has a couple of bosses, the first we encounter being Big Lantern Ghost. He has 2 attacks, one that evolves his lantern, hitting both Mario and his partner for 2 damage apiece, which in my understanding would pierce defense, and one where he can jump on either Mario or his partner for 5 damage in total. Either Yoshi or Goombella would be able to immediately illuminate the lantern by attacking it twice in one attack, but there'd be little point. For you see, in TTYD, there is no such thing as a room which is too dark for Mario to see in. You could still attack the lantern and cause the Big Lantern Ghost to waste his turn, but that'd really be it. And I'll be honest, because of how the story in 64 actually goes, I can't really come up with a reason why you'd find Vivian here. But you do have Vivian in Chapter 4, it's just there's no reason for your partners to be separated from you. So yeah, just before General Guy, we have Vivian now. Now regarding General Guy, basically every attack you'll face in this boss fight can target either Mario or his partner, with General Guy himself being the only enemy that can target both Mario and his partner at once using his electric attack. And due to the nature of that attack, I think it's safe to say that it would pierce defense too. As far as general strategy would go, you have Vivian, she has Fiery Jinx by now, and that magic would be one heck of a war crime. That Ruby Star is as good as yours. And good thing Vivian would be useful here because she has almost nothing she can do against Lava Piranha. You probably thought we'd be talking about Fuzzipede right now, but remember, Room Darkness is not a thing in TTYD, so that fight offers virtually nothing in terms of difficulty. Anyways, Lava Piranha is a boss, whose Lava Buds and Petite Piranhas can choose to target whoever they wish, but Lava Piranha itself can only target the front. Either way, you are given Ice Power in Chapter 5 in TTYD, which is not only cheaper than it is in 64, but it also combines both Ice Power and Fighter Shield's effect for only 1 BP, in addition to shielding from burns. Pretty good deal, but the fact that your attacks are no longer Ice Element means Mario's attacks no longer can actually shut down Lava Piranha in Phase 2. And because you don't have access to Ultra Rank partners until after Chapter 5 is completed, your partners sadly are not good for much when it comes to actually knocking out the extra enemies quickly. Except for maybe Bobbery, but good luck using Bomb Squad here. In any case, your only means of making Lava Piranha vulnerable to regular attacks in Phase 2 is by using an Ice Storm. Without one of those, all your partners can really do without using items involve attacks that not only can actually reach Lava Piranha's head, but are not limited to the ground. So Yoshi's Mini Egg and Bobbery's Bomb Squad. And that's literally it. Yet this boss becomes fairly restrictive now. Moreover, while both the Lava Buds and the Petite Piranhas can choose to target either the front or the back, only Lava Piranha itself can actually pierce defense. After the fight, you get the Sapphire Star, and that gives you Sweet Feast. And to replace the fight with Lord Crump after you finish Chapter 5, you fight Junior Troopa, who has only 20 HP and a spike on his head. You do have the possibility of getting Spike Shield slightly before now, so this really should not be a problem. But even if you didn't, you can probably one-shot him by using Art Attack. Yeah, this boss is truly laughable. Chapter 6 has 2 distinct targets in Lucky Lester and Huff and Puff. However, Lucky Lester is absolutely nothing to write home about. Getting a +4 defense power lift instantly shuts him down as long as you guard a Spiny Flip, and the amount of damage that can be dealt between Yoshi/Goombella and Mario is simply absurd with +4 attack. So this fight would be incredibly easy. Though before you do go to fight him, you should probably rank up your partners since you actually have access to the Ultra Stone. Absolutely rank up Yoshi at the bare minimum. Then once you finally do reach Huff and Puff, you can expect basically every electric attack he has to pierce defense. In addition to his Wind Breath and his Desperation attack, which sees him and all of his Tough Puffs slam the cloudy ground to hurt you. Meanwhile, Huff and Puff would have 2 attacks that are capable of attacking both the back and the front if he wanted to. His Cloudy Slam and his Direct Lightning. And while we're at it, probably his Tough Puff Squeeze too. All that aside, Huff and Puff's gimmick of healing off any damage you do to him would not even get a chance to get off the ground. Even without the Rush badges, you just do too much damage thanks to Power Lift and an Ultra Rank partner in Yoshi. and that means a very easy winning of the Garnet Star. You're probably thinking that Huff and Puff could just heal on turn 2, but that's impossible. Huff and Puff's AI is actually very rigid, and he can only heal himself on specific turns. For the first 12 turns, he can only heal on turns 1, 3, 6, and 10. On turn 2, meanwhile, he's guaranteed to use his Wind Breath. So really, don't sweat the finer details, just go for the throat. I promise you, you'll be fine. To be accurate, before you do start Chapter 7, you are required to fight at least one blooper, but only the regular blooper is required to fight, while the Electro and Super blooper are optional. And the regular blooper has only 30 HP, its attack is not nearly enough to outpace your power lift, even if the ink probably would be able to pierce. And even if all that failed, it's guaranteed to be stopped by Clockout. So yeah, add that onto the list of victims in this game. And then actually in Chapter 7 you're fighting Junior Troopa, who has magic on his side now. His one and only attack would hit really hard, and he can choose to target either the front or the back at will if he wanted to, but still, it's Junior Troopa. If anything, having 8 attack power means you can slap on P up D down on Mario if you have 10 max HP, and Junior Troopa attacking Mario would immediately set him into peril and effectively have him sign his own death warrant. And I'm fairly sure you know how well you can handle Monstar with basically any partner not named Koops, so let's move on. It's at the end of Chapter 7 you're fighting the Crystal King, and this boss is effectively just an overglorified wizard. 70 HP and having 2 defense in a way makes him fairly similar to Magnus von Grapple 2. However, unlike Magnus von Grapple 2, the Crystal King is weak to fire, and one of your partners is Vivian. And her fiery jinx would just be fantastic in suppressing the crystal bits whenever the Crystal King summons them. Vivian's fiery jinx would also just make it entirely impossible for the Crystal King to end the turn with illusions active, because at the start of a new turn when the Crystal King takes damage, it exposes him instantly. Just like, well, a wizard. If it's any consolation, I imagine that both his Ice Bolt and his Blizzard would be able to pierce defense. And having 2 20 HP heals means that this fight will still last a while, since effectively that's 110 HP total. But even those heals can be snuffed out if you know how to guarantee the Crystal King tries to heal himself. Basically, the Crystal King will never try to heal himself if his HP is either 39 or higher, and he will always try to heal himself if his HP is 17 or lower. With that information in mind, there are definitely methods available to the player to keep him from being able to attack you if you know what you're looking out for. And if you ask me, it probably helps that every attack the Crystal King has can only target the front. So yeah, this fight would be long, but I wouldn't quite say it's hard. And funnily enough, it's defeating the Crystal King that gives us the Crystal Star. With all 7 Crystal Stars in hand, we have now gained entry into the 1000-Year Door and the hardest bosses this game would have to offer us. And just to be forward, the fact that there's no optional quiz we can take, in my mind means we're required to fight the Anti-Guy unit. A boss fight that consists of 3 Anti-Guys, which have 50 max HP and as low as 10 attack and maybe as high as 12. You actually do fight 1 Anti-Guy in Chapter 4, but I forgot to mention it. Anyways, with how unpredictable these guys can be, being able to target either the front or the back at will and doing either 10 or 12 damage whenever they do attack, you really should just save yourself the hassle. Power Lift, have Yoshi Stampede, preferably with P up the down P equipped, do so twice, and then finish them off with Art Attack. As long as you can survive the first turn, you're effectively golden. As far as location is concerned, I would say you would fight the Anti-Guy unit in the room with Gloomtail. Likewise, in place of the rematch with the Shadow Sirens, you fight Junior Troopa for the last time. And like before, he can choose to target whoever he wants with all of his attacks. All of his magic-based attacks would pierce defense, and there really would not be much else to this boss. He'd be unpredictable, but only in regards to who he chooses to attack. Otherwise, he's pretty straightforward. And now the fight you've all been waiting for. We're starting to finally take the battles to Bowser, who has his Star Rod, which when he makes himself invincible, we cannot dispel because we do not have access to Star Beam. This is TTYD. I think it's safe to say that Bowser's Fire Breath pierces defense. And while we're at it, so can his Shockwave Drain. Meanwhile, his Heavy Jump can choose to either attack the front or the back. But yes, on turn 2, Bowser will power himself up. It doesn't quite make him invincible in this fight, but it does double his attack power if either he uses his Poisonous Claw or his Fire Breath, so that is something to look out for. It is still possible to beat him without using Starbeam, yes, but it is a fair bit harder. Or, you know, it would be if not for the fact that Power Lift can afford as much as +4 attack, maybe even +5 if you're especially lucky. And funnily enough, this means that Power Lift actually does match how much defense that Bowser has with his Star Shield. So you could do something as simple as having Mario use Power Lift, have Miss Mouse use Love Slap, which, fun fact, will pierce Bowser's regular defense, but not his Star Shield defense. So unboosted, Miss Mouse Love Slap would do a whopping 0 damage to him. You could then Spring Jump, have Miss Mouse use the Point Swap to drop Mario into peril if your max FP is only 5. And then one more Love Slap and Jump will finish him off. Because for some strange reason, Bowser actually has less HP and less defense than Junior Troopa, who you just got through with fighting. Yeah, that's very weird. I mean, you don't have to go this route if you don't mind having to fight Bowser in a more straightforward way, but I personally would not recommend it. Especially since Invincible Bowser is also just entirely immune to status ailments. And on that note, he is able to use the Star Rod to actively counter your own buffs, like with Power Lift, but he can only do this later on in the fight. Meanwhile, he'd at most take only 2 damage from Earth Tremor, absolutely nothing from Art Attack, and only 11 from Supernova. So I hope you enjoy Super Guarding, because you're gonna need to do that if you want to win otherwise. And with him past us, we have to then delve deeper, yet deeper, into Bowser's Crypt, where Kamikoopa will power him up even further, and you already know where this is going. When Bowser makes himself invincible here, he is entirely impossible to damage. And even if you did have the tools to take him from his gargantuan 99 HP to 0, you wouldn't be able to actually knock him out. This is a scripted battle, where you are required to use Starbeam so that it fails, so that Peach and Twink can then help you out by upgrading your Starbeam into the Peach Beam, which actually would be able to counter Bowser's magic. Without that, you're stuck. So is that it? Is the video over and this is just as far as we can go? Well, it should be, but it'd be very much anticlimactic if we did make it end this way. So remember that favor I gave Bowser back in the beginning of this video, where because we're able to actually beat him before the prologue starts, I had to let him win? Well, now I'm going to ask him to return the favor. So I'm going to have Miss Mouse come out here, she's going to kiss Leaf Bowser, steal the Star Rod from him, and boom, we win. But this video isn't over yet, there is still one more boss I want to talk about. Say hello to Master. Though the only fight I want to talk about is his final fight, where he has 99 HP, 1 defense, and all of his attacks available to him. And the way I see it, all of his attacks can only target the front. He's also extremely easy to counter by using Zap Tap, so yeah, this fight would barely be any different than in 64. And I think that sums it up fairly well. I'll admit to finding this thought experiment to be a fair bit disappointing, but it makes sense. 64 bosses by design are going to be much more simple with a few exceptions. And with the magnitude of the absurdly broken stuff that TTYD affords the player, thinking about how to actually fight the bosses under these rules makes me feel like a raid boss in my own right. But oh well, I hope you enjoyed the video at least. And as always, a special thank you to my channel members, MB Switchy and Nintendo Sixty-Jorts. Thank you for your continued support, it really does mean the world to me right now. Until next time, this is Phantom A, thank you for watching.